She looked me right in the eyes and said something I never expected to hear on a regular night. She told me, "Maybe we should break up just to see what you do." My answer was very calm and very direct, and it ended our marriage for good. Those words she spoke seemed to come out of nowhere on a night that felt so normal. We were sitting together at our small kitchen table, the one with a scratched wooden top we bought together when we first moved into this house. It was a very quiet Tuesday evening, the kind where nothing big usually happens. It was just a normal night, like 1,000 other nights we had shared together. There was nothing dramatic happening at all. We weren't having a big argument about money or chores, and there wasn't even any bad energy between us when we first sat down to eat our spaghetti. The only sounds in the room were the soft, constant hum of the refrigerator and the very dim, distant light coming from the television in the living room. It was a peaceful scene, but was about to be broken into many small pieces. She had spent most of the evening looking down at her phone, barely eating any of the dinner I had cooked for us. That part wasn't really strange, as she had been acting a bit distant and far away in her mind lately. It was like she was physically there, but her heart was somewhere else entirely. What was strange, though, was how she suddenly put her phone face down on the table and looked at me with a look that seemed very prepared, like she had practiced what she was about to say in front of a mirror many times. "I think we should break up," she said. She wasn't yelling, and she didn't even sound sad or angry. She sounded very calm, almost like she was talking about the weather or what we should do over coming weekend. For a heartbeat, I truly thought she was making a joke. We had been married for 8 long years. In my mind, people don't just throw a sentence like that into a conversation while eating pasta like it is a casual topic. It felt like the ground had moved under my feet. I waited for her to smile. I waited for her to say, "I am just kidding. I love you." But she didn't smile. Instead, she just watched me very closely, as if she was waiting for me to do something very specific, like a kid waiting for a reaction after playing a trick. That was the exact moment I realized something was very wrong. This wasn't a sad moment where someone was hurting and needed help. It was a test. It was a game to see how much power she had over me. "Okay," I said very quietly. "Go ahead and pack your things." As soon as I said those words, her whole face changed. The confident look she had just a second ago disappeared so fast it was shocking. It was as if her mask had fallen off and her real face was underneath. "Wait, what?" she asked, looking confused and a bit scared. I looked at her and kept my voice very steady and soft. "You said you wanted to break up. So, please go and pack your things now." She laughed a little, but it was a nervous sound that didn't sound like a real laugh at all. "I didn't mean it like that," she said quickly, her eyes darting around the room. "I just meant that maybe we should take a little break from each other to see how we feel." I nodded my head slowly, feeling a coldness in my heart. Usually when people take a break, one of the people has to leave the house. That is how it works in the real world. A heavy, uncomfortable silence filled our kitchen. She looked at me like I was speaking a language she had never heard before. "Are you really not even going to try and fight for our marriage?" she asked me. There it was. That was the part of the story she expected me to play. She wanted me to cry and get on my knees. She wanted me to beg her to stay. She wanted me to make big, grand promises about how I would change everything and be a perfect husband. She probably even wanted me to apologize for things I hadn't even done wrong, just to keep her from leaving. Instead of doing any of that, I stood up from the table. I walked over to the cabinet and pulled out a large cardboard box that we had kept from an old delivery of a kitchen blender. I set it down right in front of her on the table. "You can start by putting your clothes in here," I told her. Her eyes got very wide. "Are you being serious right now? You are really doing this?" she asked. "Yes, I am," I replied. She laughed again, but this time the sound was thin and breakable, like glass. "Wow, so that is it. 8 years together, and you are just going to give up on us like we are nothing?" I looked her right in the eyes. "You are the one who told me you wanted to end this. That does not mean I was the one who wanted to leave. I am just listening to your words and believing them. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. In that very moment, something inside of my heart had changed. It wasn't because I was angry or filled with hate. It was because everything finally became very clear to me. For many months, And maybe even for years, I had felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells around her. Walking on eggshells is a very lonely and scary way to live. It means you are always watching your step, always checking the mood of the other person before you say a single word. Every little disagreement we had would turn into a big, scary threat from her side. She would say things like, maybe we shouldn't be together, or I think I would be much happier if I were alone, or even you don't even care about me. Every single time she said those things in the past, I would jump in to fix it. I would tell her how much I loved her. I would say I was sorry for whatever had upset her. I would try even harder to make her happy. And every time I did that, we would have a few weeks of peace before she started the whole thing all over again. It was a cycle that never ended, and it was draining the life out of me. But something about tonight felt very different. Maybe I was just too tired to play the game anymore. Maybe I finally saw the pattern for what it actually was, a way to keep me under her thumb. Or maybe I finally understood that true love should never feel like you're being held hostage in a deal. Love should feel like a safe place, not like a test you are always failing. She didn't touch the box. She just crossed her arms over her chest and looked at me. So, you just don't love me anymore? She asked. I didn't say that, I answered. Then why aren't you trying to stop me from leaving? Why aren't you chasing me? She pushed. Because I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who is always looking for a reason to leave, I said. Her face twisted like I had said something very mean to her. I don't actually want to leave, she said, her voice getting much softer and more honest. But you literally just told me that you did. I reminded her. I said I think we should break up. That is different. It was just a way of talking, she argued. How is it different? I asked. She opened her mouth to speak, but then she closed it again. She didn't have an answer that made sense. I just wanted to see if you still care enough to stop me, she finally admitted. Her voice was so quiet I could hardly hear her over the sound of the fridge. There it was, the honest truth. This wasn't a real problem or a hard decision she had made. It was just a test to see how I would react. I felt a tightness in my chest. It wasn't a feeling of a broken heart. It was a feeling of deep, heavy disappointment. Do you have any idea how that feels? I asked her in a soft voice. To hear the person you have built a whole life would tell you they want to leave, just because they want to see if you will chase after them? It makes me feel like our whole life is just a game to you. It hurts more than words can say. Tears started to fill her eyes. I didn't think you would actually tell me to pack, she whispered. And that is exactly the problem, I said. She wiped her eyes with her hand, looking angry at herself. You are being so cold right now, she told me. No, I said. I am being honest. I am being real with you for the first time in a long time. I pulled my chair back out and sat down. I felt completely exhausted, like I had run a very long race that never ended. You want proof that I care about you? I asked. I have stayed through every single fight we have ever had. I stayed every single time you threatened to walk out that door. I stayed every time you made me feel like I had to earn your love all over again. That is how I showed I cared. I showed up every day. But tonight, I realized something very important. If someone has to keep testing whether or not you will stay, it means they either don't feel safe or they don't respect what it costs you to keep staying. And I am tired of paying that price every week. Her shoulders started to shake as she began to cry. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. I know you didn't, I said. And you are really okay with me leaving? She asked. That question was the most painful part of the whole night. It wasn't about love for her. It was about having control over me. I am not okay with it, I told her, but I am never going to beg another person to choose me. If you want to be here, you have to choose to be here because you want to be, not because I am holding the door shut or crying. The room stayed silent for a long time, except for the sound of her crying quietly. Eventually, she spoke up again. What if I don't want to go? She asked. I looked at the empty cardboard box sitting between us on the table. It looked so ordinary, yet it had changed the whole evening. Then don't ever say you won't leave again, I said. She nodded her head very slowly, like she finally understood how simple and serious that was. I was just scared, she admitted. I felt like we were just doing the same thing every day. I thought if I shook things up, you would fight for me. I have been fighting for us for 8 years, I said gently. You just didn't notice because I wasn't making a big scene about it. Fighting for a marriage isn't always yelling or chasing someone down the street. Sometimes, fighting is just waking up and choosing to be kind even when things are boring or hard. It is staying when you could easily walk away and find something easier. I have done that every day. She covered her face with her hands and said, "I am so sorry." For the first time all night, she sounded like herself again. She wasn't being mean or trying to pull my strings. She just sounded tired and small. "I don't want to lose you," she said. I sat back and looked at her. I could still see the woman I married in there, hiding behind all the fear and the need to be told she was wanted. "We have to stop doing this," I told her. "No more threats. No more tests. If something is bothering you, we sit down and talk about it like two grown-up people who love and respect each other. We don't play games with each other's hearts." She nodded very fast. "Okay, I promise. I will never do it again." I knew that promises are very easy to make when you're feeling emotional and the stakes are high. Keeping them when things get boring or hard again is the difficult part. I picked up the box and put it on the floor. "Put it back in the cupboard," she said softly. I waited a moment, then I did what she asked. She stood up and walked around the table to stand next to me. She looked a little unsure, like she wasn't sure if I still wanted her near me. Then she put her arms around me and held me very tight. It wasn't a sweet or romantic hug. It felt desperate and heavy. "I thought you were never going to let me go," she whispered against my shoulder. I didn't hug her back right away. I needed her to understand that things were different now. I needed her to feel the weight of what she had almost thrown away over a test. Finally, I put my arms around her too. "I don't want to let you go," I told her, "but I will not stop you if you make the choice to leave. I want you to stay because you love me, not because I'm holding on to your arm." She pulled back and looked at my face with her red, watery eyes. "I am not leaving," she said. "Good," I said, "because next time I might not ask you to pack. I might just be the one to hold the door open for you, so you can walk out." That scared her more than any fight we'd ever had, but it was the truth she needed to hear. We both needed that truth to build something real and strong together.